Welcome to the Talk Chamber. Today's episode is a little bit different from what we've done in the past. And well, really, the next couple of episodes are going to be different from what we've done in the past. I sat down with our Memphis Next-Gen 10 awardees to hear about how they are making a difference in Memphis. And you might say, Taylor Ann, well, what are the Memphis Next-Gen 10 awards? Those are our Young Professional Awards, where we highlight young professionals in our city who are truly making a difference. Those who are passionate about our city and impacting our community in greater ways. So let's dive right in. First up, we have Jevonte Porter Sr. Jevonte is the Director of Community Relations at Youth Villages. Let's hear what he has to say. Jevonte, thank you so much for coming on the podcast today.
Well, Taylor, thank you so much for having me, and thank you for having this platform for leaders across our city to share about the amazing things that are happening.
Yeah, of course. Let's just start off with a simple question. Can you just tell us about yourself? You know, who you are, where you're from, what you do, that kind of thing.
Absolutely. I'm Jevonte Porter Sr. I'm still getting familiarized with using the senior, my junior, who's actually turning 4, but he's now starting to familiarize himself with his name and all that, so it's always good to see that. But proud native Memphian, born and raised here in historic Orange Mound. Deep roots run deep. My entire family graduated as valedictorian from Melrose High School. I then went on to earn my degree in political science and communication studies from the University of Tennessee, Knoxville. Go Vols. I'm always rooting for the Vols. But today I currently serve as the Director of Community Relations at Youth Villages for our Memphis Allies Initiative.
Tell us about that specifically a little bit.
Absolutely. So Memphis Allies is one of Youth Villages' newest initiative that we launched in 2021, where we are working to reduce gun violence across our entire city of Memphis. We are aimed to support and reach and serve those who are considered highest risk, where we are connecting them with services like life coaching, case management, clinical health support, as well as outreach support to really support them and build and create a more vibrant city. These are individuals who are committing violent acts across our city, who are oftentimes have been overlooked. There have not been services for these individuals. So we've created a program and a service model that supports both youth and adults. We serve those at ages 12 to 35 across our entire city.
That's awesome. That sounds like a really impactful, beneficial piece of work that you're doing.
Absolutely. It's very, it's probably my most critical and proud work that I've done since launching my life and committing my life to service. But for me, I think the biggest impact is doing it amongst our partners. We have several partners that we do this work with across our city who are all mission aligned and mission driven and wanting to see a more safe, thriving city where children can grow up and businesses can thrive and communities can feel whole. And so I think that through our Memphis Allies Initiative, we're actually providing hope for our city and hope for those individuals who are in need of our services. So
you mentioned you committed your life to serving. And in your application for the Next Gen Awards, you talked about being a servant leader. So
Absolutely.
I want to know, what does being a servant leader mean to you?
Absolutely. From an early age on, I knew that my purpose was tied to service. And I think for me, even leaving college, that purpose could only be fulfilled here in Memphis. Servant leadership is not just being present, but also showing up and doing the work. And I think, being a mentor to individuals who look just like me, also listening to my neighbors and wanting to be a part of community, wanting to ensure that I'm advocating for equity and opportunity regardless of which spaces that I occupy. I think that for me is servant leadership. I also think that beyond the titles and the roles, that leadership is just not about what we do and how we do it, but it's who are we doing it for? Are we truly serving those mostly at need? And I think that the core of me is that as a leader, no matter how many roles or titles or awards that I grab as I ascend, but it's also important that I'm lifting others up along the way. And I think that for me, it's important that I make sure I remind myself that of my why, of that purpose, and rooted in that purpose. But I just have a heart for people. And I think that being and utilizing my voice and my influence that supports and serves those most at need, those most at risk, those who are underserved and who are overlooked is important, because that's what I'm called to do. That is what we are called to do. And I think Memphis has given me the leverage and the lived experience and the opportunities to really do that. And so I think that is what servant leadership is to me.
Yeah, no, that's a great answer. I think a mark of a good leader is that servant leadership, that service aspect. You can have a CEO, you can have that fancy title.
That's
and,
right.
You could be the president. But if you're not serving, your leadership is not as impactful as it could be if you are not thinking of other people.
Absolutely. I will add to that. I think that too often we do get caught up in the fact of what is the next big gig, what is the next role. And honestly, society doesn't make any better for young leaders like myself, because we're always looking at, am I making enough money to provide for my family, or am I meeting the right people to grow my sphere of influence? But honestly, if we're not doing it at the service and at the will of people who are in need of what we are able to contribute to society, then are we really doing our jobs? Are we really fulfilling our purpose? Are we really doing what God called us to do? And I think it's important that we realize whatever that North Star is for us, that centers us. And for me, community centers me. I'm rooted in community. It's part of who made me who I am. And I think that is critical to any leader in any role, in any business or organization.
So you've talked about servant leadership, but you also mentioned you have to remember your why. So a little different. Why do you choose to live, work, and play in Memphis?
Absolutely. Well, Memphis to me is not just a city. Memphis is home. And I think I shared this a little bit earlier, but it's where I first found my voice. It's where I see so much potential unlocked. And I believe in Memphis. I believe in our people. I believe in our culture. I believe in our capacity for transformation. I think I see what we can do when we work together across institutions, and neighborhoods, and generations. And every single day, I get to work in this city, whether it's in violence intervention or youth development or nonprofit board service. I'm reminded of that why, which is to fulfill my purpose here and to do it where I was planted. And I think that Memphis needs bold leadership, courageous leadership, who's committed to serving this city.
Committed to the city, willing to take ownership of the city.
Without permission.
Right. What is your advice or call to action for young professionals?
Absolutely. I just said this too. You do not need permission to lead. You do not need to ask for someone to grant you the opportunity to walk into your purpose. Get involved, get active, and advocate for equity and opportunity in any space that you occupy. Become a part of the solutions. Ask the tough questions, and do not let challenges discourage you. Memphis isn't perfect, but that is exactly why your presence matters. Be the kind of leader that Memphis deserves, one that is consistent, one that is humble, and one that is committed and rooted in service and rooted in community. But most of all, remember that leadership isn't about titles. It's about showing up, doing the work, and more importantly, lifting those others up as you climb.
I 100% agree. That is a great way to describe leadership and a great piece of advice for young professionals. But I've got one last question for you.
Yes.
How are you making Memphis greater?
Oh, man. That's a tough one. But I think that I make Memphis greater, Taylor, by investing in people too often who are overlooked, whether it's through violence intervention work, through our Memphis Allies Initiative, or improving access to healthcare, or serving on nonprofit boards, or building bridges between city systems and communities. I lead with one principle, and that is we rise together. I also make Memphis greater by showing up and being present, by listening to my neighbors, by listening to community leaders, but more importantly, by mentoring young people. I believe that real change happens through relationships, which is why I've committed to my working across sectors, whether it's education, business, government, creating real partnerships that are building lasting impact across our city. But most importantly, I do believe that I make Memphis greater by being here and being committed and understanding that I ain't going anywhere because Memphis needs my leadership. Memphis needs my service. And I do know that when Memphis wins, we all win.
That is so true. And it's just, as somebody who left for college and then chose to come back to Memphis, we just really see your heart and your excitement for the city. So thank you so much for coming on and sitting down with me today. And again, congratulations on winning the Next-Gen Award.
Thank you so much, Taylor, and to you and the entire Greater Memphis Chamber of staff. I'm very fortunate for this honor and I'm privileged. But more importantly, I hope that it is a beacon of hope for other young professionals who are looking to get involved, to get active, and actually move the needle of progress here in our city. Yeah. So thank you again for the opportunity, and thank you for allowing me to share about my passion and my why.
Thanks. A few takeaways from our time with Jevonte was to be present, listen, and invest in people. Now let's hear from Donae Gooden, a human resource manager at JM Smucker. Donae, I'm so glad that you could come and sit down with me today and just chat about Memphis.
Yes, thank you, Taylor. I'm so happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Of course. To start off, tell us about yourself. Where are you from? What do you do for work? How did you end up in Memphis?
Okay, so I am a military brat.
Okay.
And when my dad retired, we moved to Jackson, Tennessee. So that's where I spent my teenage years. I went to college at Mississippi State University. I lived in Mississippi for a while. Then I lived in North Carolina for a while. And then once I had a niece and nephew and my parents were retiring, I decided to move back to Memphis area so I could be a little closer to my family and my husband's family. So I have been here for 4 years this month.
Oh, congratulations.
Yes, thank you.
We are glad to have you. Why did you choose Memphis, though? Of all the, I mean, you say family, but you could have, been in Jackson. Mm-hmm. What made you choose Memphis specifically?
Memphis is a hub, and there are so many things to do, and there are so many ways to get connected, and there's so much community and culture here. I'm really into dining. I'm into the arts, and Memphis is a place where I can get connected with all of that. And I love it here. I enjoy it. It's fun.
That's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
So now what do you do?
I am the site HR manager at the JM Smucker Company.
Very cool.
Yes.
You, in your application, you talked a little bit about kind of the work that you do in HR and kind of just the workforce element. So I want to take a second to ask you a question or two about that.
Okay.
You mentioned that leadership development includes growing our talent pool in Memphis and retaining those workers. How do you, in your job or personal life, help strengthen our workforce?
Okay, so what I do at work is develop talent and work on something that's called organizational capability. So I am growing leaders and we're growing skills. So we're making our organization better and people are becoming leaders. And I'm very much into leadership development. And I participate in leadership development outside of work. So I am really into growing and mentoring young professionals as I've been in the workforce for a little over a decade now. So I grow and develop and work with other young or early career HR professionals through SHRM Memphis with emerging leaders. And we do a lot of leadership development through that. And then I'm just a forever student. So I'm always looking for different courses to take, professional certifications to get, and getting plugged in with local organizations who can come into my workplace and help train and develop my employees. So we're learning through AI. We're doing data analytics. We're learning Microsoft Office programs. And then I'm connecting outside of work. So we're having resume development and performance review workshops and different wind downs for HR professionals to connect. So there's so many things that we can do and so many things that I participate in just to improve my own skills so I can be a better leader to grow the next leaders.
Definitely. You mentioned young professionals and mentoring them. So what advice or perhaps a call to action do you have for young professionals in Memphis?
Get connected, be assertive, and rise above the noise. You can be the change, but you've got to spread that positivity, but you've got to get connected, because if we don't know who you are and we don't know that you're here, how can you make that change?
That's a good one for sure. You gotta put yourself out there to be able to make a difference. You can't sit at home and hope that making a difference falls into your lap.
Right.
You know, that's you and your dog and your TV.
Right.
That's not gonna change anything.
And Memphis is a place where you can create your own experience. Whatever you want to do, it's out there for you to go get it.
It sure is. So I've got one last question for you.
Okay.
And it is, how do you make Memphis greater?
I think I do just exactly what I said. I get out there, I get connected. I am the change that I want to see. So if there's something that I don't like, that I'm not seeing, I put it out there. So I do nothing but spread positivity. I spread positivity on social media. I spread positivity in the workplace. I spread positivity throughout the community. And whatever I put out into the community, I think it gives back to me.
Awesome. Donae, that is, you practice what you preach.
Yes.
And that's the way it should be.
Yes.
And we are so glad to have you here, and congratulations. Thank you for being a Next-Gen awardee.
Thank you so much. I am so honored and so grateful. Again, just thank you. Thank you to your team. Y'all are amazing.
Of course. Thanks.
Thank you.
Donae is passionate about being a forever student, growing leaders, and their skills. She wants all of us to spread positivity and be the change in Memphis. Our final awardee today is Madison Dobbins. Madison is the scheduling and results manager at Mid-South Drug Testing. Madison, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me. It's very exciting.
We are excited to have you. So let's just start off with you telling me about yourself. Where are you from? What do you do? Those kind of things.
Okay. My full name is actually Virginia Madison Dobbins, but I go by Madison. I am from Memphis, never left, always been here, always will be here. We originally started out in Millington, then moved to Cordova, moved to East Memphis, moved to Germantown, kind of been all over, but always stayed within Memphis, Shelby County limits. I also just recently bought a house in Millington, which I know is not Memphis, but
It's the greater Memphis area.
yeah, it is. And I still work in Memphis. I still come to Memphis every single day, and I love being here. So it gives me a little drive, see the city, see the outskirts of the scenery a little bit, but yeah, it's really fun.
So your work, what do you do?
I am the scheduling and results administrator for my company, which is Mid-South Drug Testing. It sounds kind of results, and it's exactly what it is. I schedule drug testing and I handle results. But outside of that, we have a lot of training and management that we do. We go to different conferences within our industry. We do different trainings for other collectors that don't necessarily work for us, but they want to go work at a drug testing company, and we do their training. So majority of people around here might have gotten trained by us. If they didn't, I don't know who did it, but so we do that for drug and alcohol testing. Outside of that, we also have hair, DNA, nicotine, nails, stuff for court. We end up doing a lot of court order tests, which is, yeah, busy.
I'm sure.
Yeah, very. But yeah, it's an interesting job. We definitely wear 10 different hats a day. You never know what you're walking into. You might have 3 people out, and all of a sudden I'm doing front desk again, and it's like, I don't even remember how to do front desk. So then I have to revert back to what I was doing 10 years ago, and I'm like, okay, well, but it's, I think I've grown a lot since the very beginning. I started when I was 16.
Wow.
Yeah, I wanted a car. Fair
Fair
my
enough.
mom said, get a job. I said, with you? Or she was like, no, you need to go work somewhere else. tried to work for a restaurant. It was horrible. It was horrible. I think I was only there like 2 weeks, and I was like, no, I'm not doing it. So I started working for her, and then I just never left. I don't know. I just decided like this is the career I'm gonna have, I guess, and I just went with it. And it's been an adventure the last 11 years, but I wouldn't trade it.
I'm sure. I want to talk a little bit about something you mentioned in your application. Your work involves coordinating volunteer efforts with local nonprofits, right?
Mm-hmm.
So can you share about the work you do and why it's important to give back to the community?
My mom is actually the one who's always made us, especially when we were younger, she would make us go volunteer. She would make us go do things that, we necessarily didn't want to do, but it was always important to her. So, growing up, we would go feed the homeless, or we would go do things at our church here and there. And it was like, okay, that's kind of, we'll do it. And then I got older and I'm like, okay, well, I understand why it matters. I mean, when you go and you feed a family that is housed by a nonprofit and the only home they have is that, and then you go home to your own house and you're like, I can't imagine.
Right.
I can't imagine being in that position. That has to feel horrible and hopeless and just, and people don't give them a chance. And it's like, they're still humans. They're still humans. They still deserve every human decency right that we all should have and that we all do have.
Mm-hmm.
And so we do some stuff with Dorothy Day specifically, and I think they're very important. I think that's very important. And we have an Arkansas office, so we were doing something with she is the vice president of the Arkansas office. Her wife was working at a school. She handled a lot of the special needs children, and so we would donate there. We donate to animal shelters because I have a dog. I'm very animal shelters.
A dog mom.
I am, and animal shelters just kill my little soul. I would buy them all. They're. But anyways,
If you had the space.
if I had the space, and I kept telling my mom, I was like, my house. I'm glad I bought it. It's not big enough. I have one dog. I want like 3, 4, 5. Can't fit them all. But so it is very important that when you have the ability to give back, that you do.
Yeah.
And with us having the extra income to do something for the community instead of giving it to ourselves or our employees, like everyone wants a bonus, yeah, but there's more you can do with that. And there's more that you should do with that if you can, in my opinion.
Right. And so you said you're born and raised here. I want to know, why do you choose to live, work, and play? Why do you choose to stay?
I have always been such a homebody. I've always loved I have roots, and that's where I want to be. That's where I'm going to stay. My sister's the traveler. She's in Kauai. Love that for her. But I don't know. I mean, I've traveled and I've visited plenty of places. I've been all over the States, all over, and I never had a desire to move there. It was kind of like, okay, well, y'all stuff is cool, but it's cool for the week. I like being in my home. I like knowing where I'm driving around in the city. I like knowing that I can go to my favorite restaurant, which I told them out there. I was like, go to Blue City and get steak. Like, I want to know that I can just go do that. But on top of that, I mean, my family's here. Yeah, some of my friends have stayed. A lot of them have moved away, which, gives me a place to visit. But it's the community feeling of it all. Some people think that Memphis has this bad rep, but our community here is so special. And, we have so many different things that we can do outside of, you can go to the park. There's always a festival. There's always something music going on. There's always, every single weekend there's something. And I never feel unsafe. I always feel fine. I always feel excited. But I don't know. There's just something about a homey feeling here. I love being here. I don't imagine myself ever being anywhere else. And I think that a lot of people just don't see real Memphis. They see news, social media Memphis. But if you're actually in it and you're actually participating in things like Greater Memphis Chamber, going to events, meeting with other people, it's a great community. It really is.
It is.
There's a lot of opportunities and there's a lot of people to meet and groups to be a part of. You just have to find them.
Yeah. On that note, What is your advice or perhaps a call to action for other young professionals in Memphis?
A lot of it is going to events. I was always so annoyed because my mom would be like, let's go to this event, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, I'm 18. Why would I go? I don't want to go, And then the more that I've been around and the more I've gone, I'm like, okay, these are connections that you need just in general. Some of these people can just not even for work, but become your friends.
Right.
And you need a really good support system when you are building your career. And I think that, our generations are we definitely have big shoes to fill. I know I do, specifically with my mom. She's a beast. But I think that everyone just needs to get out there. I mean, we're all nervous. We're all scared to do new things. It just is what it is. But if you never do it, you're never going to live up to your true potential. And I think that us being younger, we are growing up. And it's time for us to start not necessarily taking over what our parents are doing or what our bosses are doing, but starting to get out there and do more and actually be active instead of just going to work every day. And that's it. We just go to work, go home. Yep. That's it.
I mean, this is the time where we're still trying to figure things out, but we also need to start looking for the future. And if Memphis is a city that you love and a city that you intend to stay in, then you should want to see it thrive. And so you should be thinking,
right,
how can I create a better future for Memphis? How does my job, my hobby, my whatever make Memphis better?
Right.
And that can lead to some scary, uncomfortable situations in the sense of having to put yourself out there more.
Mm-hmm. Being rejected. You get rejected all the time. I mean, you can have a meeting with someone, pitch this great idea that you love so much, and they're like, no. You're like, oh, alrighty, that's okay. You have to learn how to accept rejection. It's not always personal. Sometimes maybe, but it's always something that you can't get away from. And I think, too, the younger generations are a little bit more, not skittish, but maybe our feelings are a little more easily hurt, possibly. Or, I know there's times I don't even know if I can take over. I'm like, I think I'm trying so hard, and then I keep getting no's and no's and no's. And it's like, but someone's going to say yeah. At some point, someone's going to tell me yes. And it's going to be everything I ever needed it to be or ever wanted it to be. And it'll be great. You just have to get there.
So I've got one last question for you. What is your vision for a greater Memphis?
I know that we have a lot of companies on the outside of Memphis that are big, Google, Blue Oval, places outside on, but I think that we still have so much room in Memphis to grow. There's still so much potential in our actual city to do things, and I really hope that we have some new businesses. I really hope that some of this younger generation does start, putting their ideas out there, making new businesses, growing new businesses, or taking what they already have and innovating, make it different, do something else. But there's so much that could still be here that we could be doing. And I just hope that my generation starts stepping up and, filling those spots that need to be filled, and that we as a collective start doing more for Memphis. And, that's the hope. That's the hope.
Definitely. Madison, thank you so much for sitting down with me and chatting. We are so glad that you are a Next-Gen Award recipient, and congratulations.
Thank you so much. This was so fun.
We learned from Madison that Memphis has a special community. It's time for us to get out there and live up to our full potential. Thank you so much for tuning into this episode of The Talk Chamber. We are so glad you're here. If you enjoyed this episode, share it with your network. Subscribe to The Talk Chamber to keep up with the latest on the Chamber, economic development, and all things Memphis. Follow us on social media at Memphis Chamber, and we will see you next time.